Oh,
This is
okay.
the deer brand, and
How's that? Ooh, that's too loud.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. What you're about to bear witness to tonight is the culmination of a passion project a group of people and organizations in this community have been working on for 2 years. Tonight, you'll hear written word and song from veterans who are working through their trauma recovery journeys in creative ways. Some of our performers are actors reading the words on behalf of the veteran who wrote them. Others are the veterans themselves. The information displayed behind the readers tonight will introduce the veteran, the story, and the reader. All of these veterans took huge steps and risks in creating these works, and they may suggest as much, if not more of a risk, sharing them with you here tonight. We honor their bravery for bringing their experiences out of the darkness and into the light on this very public stage. Trauma loses its power when brought out into the light. It's tremendously difficult, impossible really, for our communities, our veterans return to fully understand the sacrifices that they make in service to our country. Tonight they share with you glimpses into those sacrifices to help us understand a bit more. My dream is to be part of a community where veterans are accepted, better understood, and can feel fully welcomed and integrated back home. I and our veterans thank you for being here or tuning in tonight. We are a community who truly cares. I trust you'll be deeply moved by the 13 stories you're about to hear. And I will ask that you all hold your applause until the very end of the performance tonight. Thank you.
Loud noises. Well, thanks for everyone coming out tonight. That's awesome. I don't know, that might be a little hard to read from the back, so I'll just say a few brief words. This song is very special to me. It's about my experiences with suicide and the lifelong struggle that I've had, and kind of like the internal dialogue, kind of highlighting that and kind of wondering when everything's going to change. So. Sorry, I had to make sure something's off. Away. I'll take my ride into the sun. Well, when will it change? You said you would kneel like finding sand, not fleeting memories. Please, can you let go of me? I love this misery, and with you I'm in good company. Come and see what you've done to me. And what have I done to me? Look at me. And what we've done. Let's take one last ride into the sun. When will you change? Said you would be like finding sand, not tortured memories. Well, when will I change? I said I would make like finding them, not fleeting memories. Thank you.
Life as I see it. I am a 73-year-old Vietnam veteran and a senior citizen of the United States. I was drafted into the Army, served 1968 to 69. I was a teenager. All I knew was to obey orders, do a good job, and stay alive. This includes deaths of people who didn't deserve it and following orders I disagreed with. I served with the 25th Infantry in an armored unit. I have many traumatic memories from that time, but two stand out that have been among the hardest to live with. My sergeant was drafted at 30. He already had 2 children. On a search and destroy mission, he asked me to be the tank commander. He would take my usual position as driver. He ran over a landmine. I got blown off the tank. When I came to, I heard him screaming. I pulled him out of the hatch. I saw only half a man. His legs were gone. There was nothing I could do to help him. He died in my arms. I wrote to his wife and told her the good things I learned from him. I sent her money to help ease my pain. She remarried, and I lost touch with her over the years, but I've never stopped wondering if it was supposed to have been me in the driver's seat that day. I've been told that in order to change anything in life, we have to own our problems before we can start handling things in a different way and expect a better outcome. In my case, I own the fact that I was following orders when I executed a wounded prisoner by order of my supervisor. I shot a defenseless person in the head to prevent him from living anymore. This act was and is against my religion and moral thinking. Only God has the right to take a person's life. I believe that on earth we are responsible for our own actions and we will be held accountable when we die. I believe we should leave the earth as good or even better than it was when we were born. Does this mean I am doomed forever and I will go to hell when I die because I didn't do enough to save this person? I guess only time will tell. Hard to make peace with that. I've tried to do good in my life since. I worked hard, provided for my family. Now that I'm retired, I volunteer as much as my body will allow. God has blessed me with a good life. I have a loving wife, son, and daughter, and I've been able to travel. I thank God I made it through the war with only minor physical scratches, but unfortunately, now I suffer both emotional and neurological effects of what I was exposed to over there. The stitches you see on my mask are from falling due to Parkinson's disease. I would give anything to have my health back. And I can't help but ask, who should really own the problems of war? Should the boots on the ground, soldiers like me, following orders, trying to stay alive? Should the Army? They trained us, but didn't prepare us for the horrors. Should the countries we go to fight in own it? We attacked them. They were protecting themselves. Should our president, who signed the order to go to war? Should the politicians who support war? Should the American people who wrote for those politicians own it? My thought is everyone involved should own a piece of the consequences of war, including my problems. I believe all decision makers should have a more personal knowledge of the consequences of war, so all other means of diplomacy would be tried first. War should be the very last resort, always. War is war. There are no winners.
My dear wife, before you left, I told you what Dr. Norton wanted me to do, which was write you a letter. You specifically said you didn't want to cry, so I haven't sent it yet because I know you're having another very emotional trip. I'll probably send it to you after you get back from the ashes ceremony later in the week. The struggle I have, well, apparently there are many, not just this, is with the guilt I carry directly with you and the military. All the time we were married is when I was in the Army. So even though you had no choice, you were in the Army and had to sacrifice more than I did because you did not choose the Army. Your husband did. We lost so many years of time. Time lost that wasn't your decision. It was mine. I left you home to raise our kids. That includes all the things like diaper changes and knocked out teeth from fighting and injuries from falling down steps. It includes the emotional times, like the kids missing their father and them losing a game or struggling in school. As a husband, it was my job to help and share the burden, and I didn't. There's more also, not just the kids. What about us? Growing together. Why was my wife second or third in the order of when you should have always been first? Saying you are and actually treating you like it are two different things. So much I wish I could get back, especially now when I look back. How many times did you tell me I was completely selfish? I heard, but I never listened, except for one time when you told me not to do Delta selection. I should talk more about this stuff with you. And I will when you get back, but I don't want pity from me, and I don't want you to say it's okay, because it's not. I'm not sure you realize it, but you and our kids is the reason I lived through all the tough experiences in training and war. Yes, I prayed, but the thought that motivated and drove me were staying alive for my wife and kids. It was always 100% those thoughts. I also want to share some war stories that you don't have to hear secondhand anymore or get pieces when I'm annoyed. I can tell you without the gore because it's done now and it's over. I still did a lot of shitty things that you would say are warped, but I guess you can listen and pass your own judgment. Maybe why I never shared was because your judgment matters to me. Everyone else's judgment, I really don't care about. You have the ability to crush my spirit, so why would I ever make myself vulnerable? That's why I think I never shared. The only stability in my life ever has been you, and you're still here. Thanking you isn't enough. Just know that you are the sole reason your kids have a living father, and you are the reason that I'm 55. We'll talk when you get home. Love you.
My dear husband, I get all of this, and I'm so glad you were able to share your thoughts and feelings with me. That means so much to me. I want to answer this, but I need some time. Do you need me to write something back and then we can really say what we want to say when I get home?
I said there wasn't a rush, and she continued later that evening. When she wrote back, she said,
I can tell you this. The guilt you feel, you are putting upon yourself. I hope I don't put any guilt upon you, and if I do or did, I am sorry. I loved our military life, and I think our kids are as great as they are because of it. I hated the worry and the separations, but nothing we couldn't handle, and I knew it was part of the job. I'm sure any other job you had would have you traveling too. And you were right about the Special Forces decision. You were much more fulfilled all around, and you were gone way less than the others. And I felt better when you were away because I felt you were with more professional guys, and you definitely were safer with them. May not be true, but that's what I held on to. Joe, we all have our own journeys in life, and ours is amazing. I wouldn't trade it or you for anything else. We all love you.
Dear Sergeant Kearns, I know we didn't know each other very well. I wish I could have done more to save your life, but I know now it wasn't meant to be. I couldn't get the truck driver to stop, even though I tried. If things could have been different without the racial issues and the drugs running rampant, you would still be here today. Your loss was a huge turning point in my life. I blamed myself for so long. I felt the driver didn't listen to me because of our poor relationship. So many people were screwed up. You remember all these issues post-Vietnam that we dealt with. We knew soldiers weren't respected by the Vietnam guys, but I felt respected by you, acknowledged by you. The uniform you were wearing limited your vision. This is why you didn't see or hear him coming. I remember how we looked at each other, acknowledged each other. You looked me in the eyes from underneath your hoodie. I will never forget that. I found you wrapped around the axle. There was blood everywhere. I heard you moaning and groaning in pain. I ran to get help. There was nothing else I could do. They kept me in the office. I was so upset. There were so many people and machinery who went to your aid, but it wasn't enough time to save you. I watched from the colonel's office. I know you were married. I don't know if you had children. I hope she was able to move on. If you had children, I hope they were taken care of well. If you had kids, I wonder how they'd thought of you. I would like them to know I thought highly of you. If I had the chance, I would like to meet your family and tell them I am sorry for your loss. They probably wanted to know why. I want to tell them I'm so sorry they don't have their husband and father. Sometimes bad things happen for no good reason. By the time you died, I was already drinking and smoking in the company of hash. After I got out of the service, I continued a downward spiral. Tried to hide the horrible guilt I felt about your death. I worked really hard in my jobs to compensate for my heavy drinking. I pushed myself to the edge. It's amazing I didn't get in more trouble from the drinking. As a result, I neglected my family and really myself. I quit drinking 15 years ago, also smoking. I'm raising my grandson now, had to shape up for him. I'm wondering how you would respond to this letter if you could. I'm looking forward to hearing any response or advice you might have for me moving forward. I know in my heart you are with God, resting in peace. God bless, Jerry.
Dear Jerry, it's all okay. God has already told me it's not your fault. I'm in heaven now. I'm at peace. I have been for a long time. I know everything about what happened. My wife struggled at first. She grieved my loss, but she was able to move on, remarried, and had children. She has a loving family now. I hope your family is also doing well. It's a great thing what you're doing for your grandson. I hope you have found enjoyments in life, which are most of the simple things, most often the simple things. I hope you find solace in your work, your family, and your recreational activities. I'm so sorry for how my loss and your other negative military experiences affected you. Drugs and alcohol seem like a way to cope, but they end up destroying you and everyone you love. I wonder if some of your struggles have become your daughter's. She hasn't figured things out yet, like you are doing now. Stay patient and compassionate with her, never give up, but don't take responsibility for her recovery. That is hers to figure out now. I'm proud of you for tackling your addiction for the sake of your family. But I'm resting easy now. It's time for you to do the same. You don't need to bury your head in work anymore. Slow down and enjoy the beauty that has always been all around you all along. Older age forces us to slow down physically, but it doesn't change our heart. Stay generous, giving, helpful, as you have been most of your adult life. Don't let those who have taken advantage make you bitter. Give anyway. God is compassionate and all forgiving. There are people in your life who will give you that grace as well. Give grace to others and yourself. Your friend, Sergeant Kearns.
Well, I walked down the pebble road all the way to the devil's house, singing every song that I know. When I got to the tracks, I heard the train call back. It was like I was always meant to roll. And then I climbed up a mountain. It was high as I could be. But you know me, I never cared at all. When I reached the peak, took a whiff of the Edelweiss and let her stay right where she growed. Well, I was searching for something, and to this day I guess I don't know. But I'll get by in my own time, as long as that white flower grows. Well, I ended up in a land of rock and dirty men, confronting every fear I've ever known. Well, I hid in the rocks until I finally just blew my top. And there I put down quite a heavy load. Well, I was searching for something, and to this day I guess I don't know. but I'll get by in my own time, as long as the edelweiss grows. And on the long ride home, we thought about ourselves. We decided that we missed who we were. But there's no turning back. We gotta walk that dirty track. It's funny what you can see with your eyes. Well, I was searching for something, and to this day I guess I don't know. But I'll get by in my own time, as long as that white flower grows, as long as that white flower grows.
Dear younger me, you feel guilty for something you had no control over. You're scared, unable to comprehend what just happened. Taking the leap was the best decision you've made, and it's about to be taken away from you. You know it was hard enough to come face to face with an intimate knowledge and understanding of what death is, a point in which your ego can no longer deal with lying to you about how reality is, an unconditional acceptance of death as it exists in reality. Dying was easy, and it wasn't scary, which is why it'll become dangerous to you, because the next toughest decision for you to make is whether or not to continue moving forward. When I'm in the back of your mind, you feel you are on borrowed time. You're going to end up thinking that you should have died that day, that you don't deserve to be here, and that you should hate yourself as a punishment for living, for the death of a dream. Those things are not true. It also isn't true that you were faking or just had anxiety. The truth is that you experienced death. I know that you only want what you earned, no more, no less, but it will not work out the way you want it to. You had no control over what happened. You never had any control in the first place. You're also not a leaf in the wind being pushed around by life. You're not a victim, and you never thought yourself as one. You're not the cause either, but you are holding yourself and your own ideas of what you think other people think about you, responsible for the guilt you feel. You don't get to decide how other people think about you, but you can decide how to feel about yourself. It's going to take a long time, a lot of painful memories, and a lot of therapy to start feeling better. I know that right now you feel that you can't trust anyone, and it's a fucked up road to go down. I doubt I would change anything. If nothing bad ever happened to us, who would we be? You're not a good person. You're also not a bad person. There will be times when you give up in the moment, but you have never stopped looking for answers. You just don't understand the things that will improve you yet. If you did, you'd be improved. But you have to stop looking at yourself as something to be fixed, like a mechanic to a car. You're going to twist yourself in knots trying to fix yourself. And in the meantime, you'll be stopping the wounds from actually healing. The wounds will pile up and compound and make you feel like you're being crushed beneath them. You will feel like death is the only escape. But it isn't. The way forward is moving through the pain and continuing forward in spite of it, and in doing so, you will find people who will teach you how to heal those wounds. Then you will have allowed yourself to heal. The scars will always be there. The memories may always be painful. But I write to you a few days before my 30th birthday that I'm still standing, still trying to heal, still trying to move forward, even though I thought I'd never see this day come. It wasn't without struggle. It wasn't without help. But you'll be glad you're still here, and we wouldn't trade it for the world.
Dear Ghost, you always seem to show up when there's just no room for you. I ask for your name and I get no reply. You're always there watching my every move. Is there anything I can do for you? I ask. While a sincerely apologetic man stands before you. Again, you don't reply. I've never seen your face, but I can feel the sadness you carry in your soul. Every day I wish that day had played out differently and our paths had never crossed. But those weren't the cards we were dealt. I don't actually know you, but I do know I'll never forget you. I'm sorry for what I have done, and I seek forgiveness. Marcus.
Dear American brother, we were both victims of war. I was serving my community, you were serving your country. There is honor in both, but there are very few winners in war, and there is always collateral damage. I see you are still fighting your own personal war. I am at peace. I know killing is not in your blood like it is not in mine. That's actually why things went down the way they did that day. I know you were protecting me from the wrath of Cowboy, which would have been much worse. Thank you for protecting me in that way. I wish for you to heal from this experience. But I don't want you to forget. What happened changed you. What happened taught you. I deserve to be remembered. I see your mentality has changed. You have explored so many things spiritually, politically, and socially since this happened. Our mutual experience leaves us connected forever. I want good to come out of this, and I can see this happening through you. I wish for you to live extra well, a full life, in my memory. I will be on your mind. I will be in your dreams, whispering to you. Think of me as your guardian angel. Make the world a better place with the influences you have available to you.
when you get as old as me, you got to have help. I like to say this. The other day, probably last week and not the other day, I learned about two experiences that people have in their lives. One is crystallizing, and the other is paralyzing. I would hope that everything you heard here tonight helps you to understand and to look for crystallizing experiences in your life where you can enjoy life, the joy that the good Lord has given us. And I just, I came from a patriotic background. My father was in World War II, and his ship was sunk at the Battle of Rennell Island. So I grew up in a home that thought America was the greatest thing ever. So I wrote this song. I hope it has some meaning for you, because it does for me. My heroes, excuse me. My heroes have always been soldiers. Get tears in my eyes when I hear the bugle blow. See the flag being lowered when the sun goes down. My heroes have always been soldiers. Some gave a little, some gave all, some returned, but some had to fall. For my freedom, they answered the call. My heroes have always been soldiers. Some that returned were never the same. Still fight inside an ugly war game, living out memories they just can't explain. That's why my heroes have always been soldiers. Some gave a little, some gave all, some returned, but some had to fall. For my freedom, they answered the call. That's why my heroes have always been soldiers. Heroes have always been soldiers. Your tears in my eyes when I hear the bugle blow. See the flag being lowered when the sun goes down. My heroes have always been soldiers.
why I didn't save you. A few days ago, while trying to evaluate a wounded individual, I pumped smoke for a medevac and told him the color, only to look a quarter mile away and see the same color smoke pop by the VC. I ran to the radio and hollered, "Abort! Abort!" as the medevac came into the wrong smoke. Chopper lifted back into the sky as I heard Vietnamese voices over the radio. The VC had our frequency. As the chopper and I changed frequencies, I popped a new color smoke and had the medevac call the color as it scanned the area for another smoke. When the medevac accomplished, it was back to the bunker to advise the officer in command that we had problems with radio frequencies. Later, we received a request not to evacuate wounded that would not live to reach the hospital. This means we would have to assess the wounded more carefully and possibly use up the magic hour. Several days later, the Vietnamese soldiers told me to check you and your grandson. When I saw you, you both showed a little sign of life with no ability to talk to us or move. You're both comatose. Soldiers asked us to medevac you, but in your present state of awareness, I could not. I and the lieutenant sat down and began our wait and drank a beer. 3 beers would use up your magic hour. You died on the 3rd beer. We had been repeatedly asked to get you medevaced, but we did not try. Flight time was 45 minutes. Your wounds would have not allowed you to make it to the hospital. To medevac you, I risked the lives of a crew and chopper. I made the decision, and only I. The officer was new and did not have the experience I did. I am sorry I did not try. At times, even today, I wonder if it was wrong and should have ordered a medevac. At least I would have tried. Had a medevac you, I doubt I would have remembered the incident. My instinct was to save a helicopter and a crew from possible destruction. There were other times that medevacs would not come in to pick up a wounded VC due to control the area. This area was similar. I used all the information I had to choose an outcome. And in this case, I chose not to order a medevac. I've thought of this incident 1,000 times or more, but my decision not to medevac you would have not changed the outcome. Could I have been wrong? Yes. I think about that every day. I'm sorry that your family had to lose their loved ones. You have me to blame for that.
You couldn't have saved us. Yes, at first I might have been angry. After all, it was not just me they wanted you to save, it was also my young grandson. You went off drinking instead of trying to help. I wanted desperately to believe that you could have at least saved my grandson. But I realize now that wasn't possible. You were just trying to save, protect the most people you could. You saw that helicopter that almost got ambushed by the VC. You could have cost the lives of a whole helicopter crew had you called them in. You didn't know who I was. I could have been VC. I wasn't, but you had no way to know that. By the time you got to us, our souls had already left our bodies. It was already too late. You knew that. We are at peace with our Creator now. We have been for many, many years. Our family suffered for a few years, but they have also moved beyond their grief. Now it's your turn. You deserve some peace, to stop beating yourself up over this. I appreciate that you haven't forgotten us. I appreciate that you have used your feelings about the situations and many others to do good in particular what you have done for my fellow Vietnamese people over the years, including for the woman you have taken as your wife and her family. Actually, I've realized over the years that had you loaded us up on a helicopter, you would have caused our bodies even more trauma. You let us lay there in as peaceful a position that was possible given the situation. So, never forget us, but please accept our forgiveness. You, just like we, were caught up in a situation that none of us could win. Focus your energy on the living, including your wife and your mother, who may be joining us in heaven soon. And focus on finding peace within yourself. This you deserve.
Good evening, everybody. I'm retired Army Staff Sergeant Nathan Ketterling. I'm reading a statement I wrote, evoked by trauma experienced in correlation, inspiration by a song called Mansion, and embodied by the mask that you see on the screen. I'm here to tell you that I'm living proof that not all wounds that impair us are physical. I am thankful to still be alive despite the trauma and struggle I've had with suicide, and I'm lucky to be the father to an amazing son. One room, door locked. It's been over a decade since he crept his way in. Immediately made himself at home, extending his reach to the corners of my mind. So stealthy was he, as my life flashed before my eyes during the horrific explosion. The near-death experience rendered my body, mind, defenseless and vulnerable, allowing him to take control of my feelings, words, and actions effortlessly. My open house for all soon became a fortified mansion without access, no exceptions. I have questioned every moment of my life since that day, contemplating who had control. Battles would roar throughout the fragile war zone, my weakened soul. Those of who I loved and held dear to me caught in the hellish crossfire. Eventually, it killed them off, as I was left alone to stand and fight. It came down to one last wing to clear, the enemy's stronghold. Exhausted and alone, I decided to lock him in isolation, hoping to smother his flame, only to realize I barricaded the monster within the same room I reside. This allowed others to move freely through the house now, or otherwise the mansion, except for this one lonely room. For years, forcing myself to stare it in the face, while others wondered where I was. Why wasn't I there? Dilemma-stricken with the question, do I unlock this door in attempts to escape? Problem is, would it be me or the fear that would greet you victoriously?
Good evening. Before I start, I want to mention names of two fellows I served with. And the first being James Doan. His nickname was Pineapple. He came from Honolulu. And we became very close. James and I were on a night ambush, and that night James was killed in action. He was 20 years old. The second fellow I want to mention is John McClurg. We also became very close. We called him Johnny. Johnny was from Earlham, Iowa, a small town. He was killed on a combat air assault on August 17th, 1970. He was 19 years old. In 1992, excuse me, I went and visited the Vietnam Memorial, and I wrote a short poem, and I just named it The Wall. Alone I walked a winding path, I crossed a wooded knoll, and there I saw the stark black wall, reflection of your souls. For a time we sat in peace midst 1,000 others, surrounded by a tranquil lull with you, my friends, my brothers. You took my heart and shook my soul, those hidden tears rushed out. My love for you is great, my friends, and never to be forgot. And when the time departed come, I wiped my tears away. I turned and saw a sweet young child. My eyes met hers that day. Those soft, fair eyes were filled with woe. My tears she shed for you. So sad, but yet so wonderful. Through me, you touched her too. Goodbye, my friends, my smile reached her. Goodbye, my friends, goodbye. With sparkling eyes, her smile replied. Farewell, my friends, goodbye. I also wrote a short article here for the website of the unit I was with, the 101st Airborne Infantry. And I titled it My Journey Back. I took a trip back to Vietnam. In September of 2000, 30 years after returning home from Vietnam, I journeyed back. I stayed in a quaint hotel in Hue while touring. I ran into a fellow that turned out to be a former ARVN soldier. He recently was allowed to have his own business as a tour guide of sorts. His name is Chen, and he had a notebook with testimonies written by veterans he had guided in Vietnam. So I hired him. There was a place I wanted to go, but not alone. My plan was set in motion, and one dark AM, Chen and I headed out on motorcycles from Hue. We rode along the Perfume River, passing several tombs of emperors, then rode on to a putt-putt boat and crossed the river. This is Route 547. After crossing the river, we stopped in the first ville we came to and got a bite to eat. That peculiar, distinctive smell of a Vietnamese ville, long forgotten, quickly bridged 30 years. On we went. We passed by Firebase Birmingham and then Firebase Bastogne, up a long incline, and at the pass were several graves scattered this way and that. Not really a designed cemetery along this narrow road, and I suppose they were those hurriedly buried after a battle. There were no grave markers. On we went. My heart raced as we dropped into the A Shaw Valley. Strange after all these years for this place to still have such a hold on me and such a calling. But this is the place I most wanted to go. All supplies coming from the north came down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, this valley, and the interconnecting trails through Laos. The A Shaw hugs up against the Laotian border. At the junction of Route 547, which ends here, and Route 548, presently known as the Ho Chi Minh Highway, is a small ville. Chen called these local folks aliens, and the Vietnamese maps named these villas in the backcountry as minority people villages. They spoke a different dialect of Vietnamese, and Chen had difficulty communicating with them. We stopped at a market and got a Coke. At first, a few curious people approached us, but in a short time, a friendly crowd had gathered, mostly children. I was very much a curiosity to them. On we went. We turned north on Route 548. I was searching for a particular mountain. Using topography and battle maps, I located Hill 937, known to the Mountain Yard tribesmen as the Mountain of the Crouching Beast, the mountain known to Americans and to the troopers of the 101st who fought there as Hamburger Hill. This was the base camp of the 29th NVA Regiment. After the battle, the upper parts of Dong Ap Baya was void of bush, with only a few scattered branchless trees left standing. This had been a triple canopy forest. As I stood there, an eerie hush blanketed the valley with only the early rumblings of a storm coming from the north. The trees and bush have grown back on Dong Ap Baya, again covering the Crouching Beast. With the storm coming, I decided to begin the return trip. I said a prayer. I didn't experience the battle for Hill 937, but it is an integral part in the history of the 101st Airborne Division. My last few weeks in country, September 1970, I spent on Firebase Fargo, just 8 clicks from the A shot. That's Firebase Fargo, that bottom picture there. And that good-looking fellow, that's me on the base. How things change. I had gotten sick with malaria, and though I recovered rather quickly, they decided to give me a break and put me, a short-timer, on Vago till I went home. I was very conflicted. I knew I would likely not see my friends again, yet I was overjoyed with the thought that I was done humping the mountains and all that goes with it. Anyway, we stopped at the foot of Vago, and I climbed to the top. The wire and everything else is gone, but you can still see where the bunkers and trenches lay, though just dents and furrows in the ground. At places I saw pieces of poncho sticking out of the ground. I picked up some 5.56 brass. And I sat in a dent that at one time, for a few long weeks, had been my home. The bunker to my left, just off the helipad, had been a quad 50 named Widowmaker, and not far to my right had been a Duster. I looked west to the mountains that were hiding the Aisha, the same mountains I had once humped with my fellow grunts, my friends, and I was flooded with the memories and emotions of the struggles, the firefights, and the friends lost. Thunder was rumbling over the Aisha now, and it was not unlike hearing the impacts the B-52s would leave trailing behind. Sitting there was surreal. It was kind of like sitting next to a young soldier, and that soldier was me. We arrived back in Hue late that evening. I was physically and emotionally exhausted, but it had been a good day, a very good day. My journey back took me much farther and much deeper than I had ever imagined it would. I think you may understand.
Hello. Thank you for joining us all on this amazing healing journey. What you are witnessing this evening is called post-traumatic growth through art therapy. Thank you to all of those who have helped us along the way. There are too many to list, but you know who you are, especially friends, family, and besties. To my terrific 10 from Utah, plus all those who I've met through the VA channels, we will always have the commonality of the trauma nexus, thanks Dano, that bonds us for life. A huge shout out and thank you to the Fargo VA doctors, interns, and peer support staff. None of this would be possible today without your assistance, empathy, guidance, and passion for us veterans as we choose our own adventure in our healing journeys. Lastly, a sincere and heartfelt thank you to Dan Hudson, Operation Check 6, and Alyssa Ruffin, Josie Music Award winner for Modern Country Female Vocalist of the Year. That's quite the mouthful. Dan worked vigorously behind the scenes with the local artists to begin the creative process for most of the pieces you have all heard today. Alyssa agreed to hear what she thought was going to be a war story from a female veteran. They then went to work to turn my poem into a beautifully produced song for the universe to hear. It's been played at the International Space Station, so the universe has heard it. I have 2 poems to share with you this evening. The first is called The Prelude, which was written in 45 minutes about a month ago, and it tells the backstory of how collateral damage came to be. What once was mine, now is yours. Some call me Lindsay. This calling started before last May. So I wrote a little ditty. Gosh, don't I look pretty? Probably wondering who's this on stage. She was once locked in her own cage. It started by doing the work to sift through all the junk and murk, to finding hope, to listening to my inner self, so put that ego on the shelf, to finding hope and healing in the dumpster fire year. At last the messages seem so very clear. Let us help each other with love and light, add some peace to get it perfectly right. Music can transcend us all, like Dolly said. The magic is inside you. There ain't no crystal ball. Inspiration can come in the middle of the coldest night. Shinedown said, when you gonna wake up and fight? I don't know who needs to hear this. Now that I've stated the obvious, would I be amiss? My given gift comes in hearing lyrics. If you heard the noise, would you fear it? At the 3 a.m. profound one was, the devil's right beside you. Now I know this is only just the prelude. There must be more in store, as last week's lyrics made me hit the floor. At 5 a.m., before I knew the passing of a friend, I heard these words, I can finally breathe again. You see, the signs are all around. Those that were lost, you will be found. Pay attention to the lyrics, numbers, and signs, as those are the guides to align us with the divine. All it took was some big magic, and not the kind that comes with a broomstick. I must bid you all adieu, as my time is up, and it's almost curfew. Hopefully my time did not annoy, as the show must go on, and I hope you enjoy. So collateral damage, the definition of collateral damage in military terms is damage inflicted on an unintended target. It took a really, really long time, but now I have time to rhyme. Many years I struggled to find significant others that were truly never mine. My own sabotage was too great, but I had not realized my own fate. I hurt so many not knowing why. The thought of this still makes me want to cry. I was trying to find myself for years and could not find the way, but it happened in the strangest of ways one day. A ticking time bomb with those in my path. 'Twas hard to pick up the pieces pick up the pieces of each aftermath. I never meant to hurt any of you. As I found out, it's just what survivors do. Now I know why I did all those things. The roller coaster of life lessons learned is what it brings. I am doing better now, and my mind is clearer. Will he ever accept me is still my biggest fear. My body still aches as the trauma stayed inside. He did this to me as it made me run and hide. Lastly, I know it is all my brain could manage. My apologies to those, for you have been my collateral damage.
Took me a really long time, but now I've got time to rhyme. Many years I struggled to find a love that was never mine. You took a piece of me and made me believe I hurt so many, not knowing why. The thought of it still makes me cry. I was trying to find myself for years. I couldn't find a way. Then I finally broke down in tears. 'Cause I have faith, find my voice one day. And I'll be strong when I find the words to say. I am a ticking time bomb. If you're in my path, when I'm hurt, you'll feel my wrath. My apologies to you. This is all my heart can manage. You have been my collateral damage. Whoa. I never meant to hurt any of you. That's just what survivors do. I'm doing better now, my mind is clear. Will I learn to love myself? That's still my biggest fear. My body still aches from the trauma inside. You could say I knew him well, but I won't run and hide. 'Cause I have faith, find my voice within. And I am strong, yeah, I'll keep climbing. I am a ticking time bomb. If you're in my path, when I'm hurt, you'll feel my wrath. There's so much more for me to do. This is all my heart can manage. You have been my collateral damage. I know that life goes on. God give me strength to carry on. I don't need you, and I'll speak my truth. This is all my heart can manage. You have been my collateral damage. It took me a really long time. So many years I tried to find that little girl inside. Let her know it's gonna be alright.
Executive Director of the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County. We run the museum here at the MCOMP Center. On behalf of the staff and the Board of Directors and volunteers, I just want to say a few thank yous. First of all, I need to thank our funders. This activity was made possible by the voters of Minnesota through grants from the Lake Region Arts Council and the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. This project is also supported in part by a grant from the North Dakota Council on the Arts, which receives funding from the state legislature and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by our general operating arts grantors, the FM Area Foundation, the Alex Stern Family Foundation, and the Arts Partnership, with support from the cities of Moorhead, Fargo, and West Fargo, and Sanford Health. Second, I want to say a huge thank you to the outstanding planning committee that was made up of a variety of community people Dr. Norton introduced in her remarks. And especially artist and veteran Dr. Ken Anderson, who wasn't able to be here tonight, who invited us to be a part of this journey by proposing more than 2 years ago that the Warriors exhibit be here at the MCOMST. This project has truly been a labor of love, respect, and honor for the many veterans, young and old, in our community. We are grateful to have been a part of this important work. If you haven't seen this amazing exhibit yet, which is in our museum downstairs in the MCOMP Center, please come by and see it. The masks, paintings, photographs, and videos will be up through March 6, 2022, but there is no time like the present to come by. And I invite tonight's guests to stay after and take a look at the exhibit as well if you haven't seen it. Admission is posted on our website. HCSCC members get in free, and it's also free on Tuesday nights, 5 to 8 p.m. through December 31st. Thank you too to our ASL interpreter, Kayla. She's done double duty tonight. We'd be extremely grateful if you would be willing to share your responses to the exhibit and to the performance tonight in whatever format best serves you. We have paper surveys as you leave tonight. We would love to have your feedback. But also via Zoom, there is a link in the chat room. If you just click on the chat room, there'll be a link there where you can fill out a survey. Or you can write or call us. We would love to have your feedback on the project. Please join us again on Tuesday, December 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. for a panel discussion on how to talk with a veteran. We would love to have your active participation by not only watching, but by submitting your questions. A link can be found on hcscconline.org by clicking on the events page and scrolling down. For those of you with a program, I added an extra O in our website, so disregard. Thank you to everyone involved, and in particular to the veterans who serve all over the world on behalf of the United States. Good night.